Hi folks, welcome to the most incredible video ever made during these modern times. That may sound sort of haughty or egotistical, but when I get into this, I think you'll agree. Before I do get into it, I'd like to show you my family. I have 6 out of my 9 grandchildren here. I have 3 out of my 4 children, and I have 2 great-grandchildren here. I have my mother-in-law and my wife, Donna. We've been married 52 years. There's 5 generations here, from my mother-in-law to my wife, to my children, and then my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. So I just wanted to get that into the video. They're now going to sit down and become part of the viewing audience as well as you. So we're just going to take a minute till they sit down. Thank you, and stay tuned. Hi folks, my name is Jonathan Mayhew. I think I said that before. And please, 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 for your own sake, don't turn off this video, because you're about to hear the most incredible, miraculous story ever made during these modern times. Let me repeat that. You are about to witness and listen to the most incredible, miraculous story you've ever heard during these modern times. So please, 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 don't turn it off. It's going to take a little while to get through it, but you're going to hear some miracles that that are out of sight. They're almost unbelievable. And I have witnesses here with my family. My good friend Ed, he's here to testify to these incredible miracles that happened to me. What I'm about to deliver is more important than all the rhetoric coming out of the presidents, kings, and dictators of the whole world. Now that sounds pretty haughty or egotistical, but it's a truth. And the reason it's a truth is because I've been in direct communications with a spiritual force from above, and I have witnesses here to prove it. So this isn't coming from this earth, it's coming from above through me. So please, please listen. Before I go any further, I do want to say a few words about myself, even though I'm not important in this. What's important is the message, but I do want to say a few words about myself to lend a little credibility and authenticity to this video. I think the number one credibility thing I can say is that I've been married to the same woman. I choke up over this a little. I've been married to the same woman for 52 years. And the thing about our relationship is that our love is deeper today than ever. We've grown in love. And my wife would certainly testify to that. She's sitting right here in front of me. And that, I think, in terms of credibility, there's not too many people on this earth who can say they've been married 52 years and that their love has grown. Secondly, I'm a college graduate. I graduated from Penn State in 1961, and I received my master's equivalency from Temple University, the University of Pennsylvania, and American University out of Washington, D.C. I taught science for 3 years in the Harrisburg School District. I was with the Department of Education for 3 years. Then I was called upon to work in the Governor's Office of Administration for 7 years. For the last quarter century, I've been involved mostly in sales and marketing. Now that you know just a little bit about me, and I hope that lend some credibility to what I'm about to say, even though I have witnesses here to prove that these miracles happened to me. I hope that does lend a little more credibility to what I'm about to say. So let me get started. The first part of this won't necessarily be about miracles. The miracles happen near the end of the story, so I have to introduce some people and lead up to this. But it all started when I was a child. I was about 7 years old. I went to a little one-room country schoolhouse. And in second grade, I came home from school and I said to my mother, excuse me, I said, "Guess what, Mom? I'm the smartest kid in second grade." She says, "Well, that's wonderful, honey. How many are in your class?" And I said, "Just me." And she laughed and laughed and laughed. Anyhow, that's how many. There were very few kids in that school. There were about 3 to 4 to 5 kids in each of the grades, 1 through 8th grade. And little quaint dirt roads led to the country schoolhouse. It was during that year that my teacher came to my home and said something to my parents that I heard, that they said, "Your son has a gift for writing," that I was writing better than even a lot of the kids, most of the kids in 8th grade. Now, that might not be saying too much since there were only about 5 kids in 8th grade. I also, during that year, I was kind of semi-country, and all the kids I knew were white, and the little town near me, they were all white. And most of the people, almost all the kids and parents that I met, I saw the kids shooting BBs at birds and throwing rocks at rabbits and using the N-word for black people and the K-word for Jewish people. And I knew that my heart was a lot different than that. It felt like I was meant for love instead of this disdain and hate. So I felt that something, as a result of that, something big was going to happen to me someday. I remember that distinctly, thinking that way back in second grade. It was also, excuse me, let me, one other thing during that year of second grade, what really pounded something home into my mind was that my dad was an intellect. He had read the Harvard Classics by the time he was 18 years old. That's a collection of books from Dickens to Shakespeare to Kant, Nietzsche, and all the rest of them. And he went to Lebanon Valley College to study for the ministry, but halfway through, political science prof changed him from a Republican and a Christian to a communist and an atheist. So I was raised under this tutelage. But anyhow, he was an avid reader, and he had stacks of books everywhere. And in one of the bedrooms, there were stacks of books as high as my head, and one of the stacks was a National Geographic, and I used to like to leaf through them and look at the pictures. And one of the pictures that really took my mind was a picture of the A-bomb that destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And they showed dead people laying with their skin burned off, and I said to myself, I don't even know why I'm here or part of this, because I just didn't feel like war, and I just didn't feel as though I wanted to even be part of this. And that really, really stuck in my mind throughout the years. Anyhow, after second grade, I went to fourth grade, and they closed up the little one-room country schoolhouse, and I had to move my carcass to a larger school. In fact, I'm standing in this school. It's now apartments for old people, but this is my old shop class where I took shop, and it's ironic that I'm standing in here today. But anyhow, I moved here in 5th grade, and one of the kids I met was in 6th grade. His name was Bill Unks, Bill Unks. And Bill and I became really good friends, and Bill didn't have a father, and so a lot of my father's influence in terms of his atheism rubbed off on myself and Bill Unks and my brother and a number of other friends. Bill graduated in 1956 from here, this high school, and I graduated in 1957. He went to Bucknell and I went to Penn State. And after we both graduated, I got a school teaching job in the Harrisburg School District teaching science. And Bill went down to the Allentown area in Pennsylvania and got his master's degree at MIT. After he got his master's degree, he went out to Western Pennsylvania. He got a job with Westinghouse. And Bill was a genius sort of guy, and they put him and another guy in a room and said, invent something. So after about 3/4 of a year, he ended up being the co-inventor of the transistor radio. Now that doesn't sound like much of a big deal today with all the technology that's happening, but back then it was a really big thing. Bill and his wife and his kids were renting a farm out in Western Pennsylvania, and he took his newly co-invention, the transistor, and out to his tin roof barn, and he sent random number signals to outer space. Just about 3 days later, he moved back to here, just a few blocks away up the street, to take a job with the Penn State University Capitol campus in the engineering department as a professor. He got a call from the authorities from Western Pennsylvania that something big happened at his farm. And he went back, and the lease was still in his name, and he still had some belongings there. And the National Guard and State Police had his whole farm roped off in that yellow tape. But he was allowed in, and in front of this tin roof barn was a great big burnout spot as big as a football field and perfectly round. He came home and told me this story, and I was in awe about it, and it's the first time in my life that I thought about, well, maybe there's life elsewhere. And Bill and I also discussed our atheism and we actually got rid of our atheism and became agnostics because we reasoned through science that if you just can't make a rock or a piece of dirt out of nothing. You can take matter and change it from a liquid to a solid to a gas, and vice versa, but you just can't make something out of nothing. So if, in terms of the Big Bang Theory, we reason if that's a piece of molten rock and it would blast it apart and all the stars and everything were created from that, we reason that that had to be created because no one can make something out of nothing. So we reason that there had to be a creator. However, we didn't believe in Christianity at all. One other thing that I thought about over the years was that if you take a rock and you put a piece of dynamite in it and blow it up, there's going to be different shapes. There's going to be jagged edges and different shapes to that rock. And if the Big Bang Theory was true, it seemed odd that after the Big Bang, that everything came out in a circle. I mean, round. I mean, the sun's around, the stars are round, the planets are round, everything in the universe is round. So if the Big Bang Theory was true, how did everything come out round? Even our Milky Way, our galaxy, and all the nebulae, they're also round or spherical shape. So I also thought about that. So time went on. I got a job with the Department of Education, then I worked in the governor's office. And I thought about Bill's transistor story here and there, but it didn't come to the forefront in my mind until in the 70s. And I just have to regress a little and go back a few years. It was right out here in this playground, right outside of these doors, that we were assembling on the playground for our final football game. We were undefeated, and we were playing another team that was undefeated and only had 6 points scored against us. And this big guy by the name of Big John Wilson walked up to us and he said, I have $50 bet on this game. You guys better not lose. Now $50 probably in today's currency is worth maybe about 400. So we weren't afraid of Big John because Big John had a heart as big as he is. It's just that we wanted to win for him, and we did. Later on, in 1972, years later, Big John reappeared in my life and my wife's life. He was devastated and depressed because he was going through a horrible divorce, and we quickly became friends of him. John, a little later on, met a girl from upstate Pennsylvania by the name of Arvida Cook Kepler. We all called her Cook. Big John also had a daughter, a very beautiful girl, about 16 years old, almost 6 foot tall, very beautiful young lady, a very outgoing young lady by the name of Colleen Sis Wilson. We all called her Sis. And I had to introduce those people to you because the next story I'm about to tell you involves them. Sis was home during the summer, Big John's daughter, but she was attending school in Germany. And they lived, her mother married a lieutenant colonel who was in charge of a base called Gablagon. Gablagon has like a 120-foot tower, and they had about 100 to 120 linguists or communication experts that monitored the communist activities. Well, Sis's stepdad was in charge of this base. Anyhow, one night, the sirens went off, and they instituted martial law. No one was allowed out of their homes, but the lieutenant colonel was. He got a phone call that something big was happening at Gablagon. So him and Sis's mother went down to Gablagon and came back, and Sis wasn't there, but she came home a few minutes later, and they were hysterical, and Sis said, "What's going on?" So they took Sis down to Gablagon, and over top of this 100 or 120-foot tower was a great big UFO as big as a football field. And Sis stood there and viewed this for 5 hours straight, and then after 5 hours, it split in half, and half went south and the other half stayed there for another 4 hours. Sis called her dad, it was daylight in Germany, but it was nighttime here, and woke her dad up in the middle of the night and told him this story. And the next day, Big John told me. Now there were two credible people, Colleen Sis Wilson and Bill Unks, who told me about these UFO stories. And more than ever, I was thinking about that maybe the earth is going to be saved by an intelligence that's higher than ours. So that was in 1974. Sis came home for the summer, and she brought my friend who's sitting here, who's going to testify to these miracles. She brought a boyfriend with her by the name of Ed Holder, who's sitting here. And it was the summer of 1975 when another thing happened. When I was driving, Big John had a van, and we took him to the steelworks and dropped him off. Ed was with me, so was Colleen Sis Wilson, so was Arvida Cook Kepler, so was one of my daughter and my son. As I recall, he was with us. And we went down past TMI. Now, the whole world has heard of TMI because it melted down in 1978. But this was August the 6th, 1975. I'm almost positive that was the date. We went down to about a quarter of a mile below TMI, and we were running around on the rocks there. And I looked up, and I saw this object above TMI, and it was doing sort of traveling in ways that defied Newton's law of gravity. And I said to myself, look, I said to the people who were with me, look. And we all looked, and we were all in awe about what we were seeing. And I said, come on, let's get in the van. And I drove, and we went up right across from TMI, and we didn't see it. So we proceeded up through Middletown and then got on a route called Route 230 right in front of Oddfellow's home. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes this great big gigantic UFO, and it hovered right in front of us. I stopped. It had oblong windows that looked like fire. And then it slowly went over beside the Oddfellow's home and laid there for a couple minutes with these lights going off in the back of it, all kinds of different lights, and then it sped off like at the speed of light. The next day in the paper, I'm almost positive it was August the 7th, 1975, that morning in the Patriot News, it said TMI temporarily closed terrorist threats. And you can look that up in the archives, because it happened. Okay, from there, it gets deeper and deeper until I get to the miracles. From there, a couple of my friends were away for a year and a half. They were coming home. We were having a coming home party for them. Myself, my wife, Donna, Big John, Sis, and Cook, they all came up, and Ed came up to my house, and we were preparing breakfast and getting ready for the party. And Sis said, Mayu, I forgot something down at my house. I'm going to run. Sis called me Mayu. It's my last name. So I said, oh, I'll drive. I'll go down with you. So we went down the back road where my little one-room country schoolhouse was located. Her house was about another half mile down, very few houses on that sort of desolate road. And I pulled into her Big John's house where she lived, and she went in to get something. Then I pulled back out. As soon as I pulled back out and I started coming up the street, here was an object in the parking lot across from me coming directly down to us with this guy staring straight through us, and this object actually radiated gold. It went straight through us, and this guy's eyes went straight through us. And it was so out there that Sis, who really wasn't afraid of anything in life, I mean, she had black girlfriends, and she could walk through a city in the middle of the night. She wasn't the type of person to scream. She screamed so loud that her head came up and hit the top of the Toyota. And she said, Mayu, what is that? And I said, I don't know, Sis. I said, I can't believe what I'm seeing. So, and we went real slow past this object with this guy in it, and we went down a little hill, and then she went into Olmsted Plaza, into People's Drugstore, which is now CVS, came back out, and I said, I have to go back. So I went back, and I came up this hill, and now we have a whole football field to inspect. Sis is here screaming, and I'm driving. And she's screaming, May you don't go any closer, oh my God, what is it? But I had to keep going. I don't know. I'm just one of those kind of persons that has a big heart, and I wasn't afraid, whatever it was. And I just kept going down the road, and we had a whole football field to inspect, and it was still radiating gold, and he was still staring right through us. We pulled into her driveway. I back out, and she screamed again and said, Mayu, what are you doing? I said, I have to talk. So I pulled in the back of this object, and this guy who was like golden skin with golden hair was probably the best looking person that I've ever seen on the face of this earth, leaned down, and Sis was down in her seat, and I said to him, what you doing here, brother? And he said to me in a broken English accent, I just had to come down real quick. I just had to meet you, and I have to get out of here real quick. And I said, I hear you, brother. And we sped off. We went down Through Olmsted Plaza again, came up to my hometown a few blocks back. Sis had to go into Handy Market and get something. And then I went down the back way and got back down on Rosedale Avenue, the desolate road where this happened. And instead of turning to my house and going to my house, I kept going back to the spot where this happened for some reason. And when we got to a bridge right where the Olmsted Plaza was, Sis screamed and said, "Look, Mayu!" And there was this big, gigantic UFO. And as soon as I hit the brake, it sped off at the speed of light and disappeared. Well, Sis and I came back to the party. And a couple of people I know said that she looked white as a ghost. And she sat down, and I said, "Sis, what is going on here?" I said, this is nuts. She says, "I don't know, Mayu, but I remember when I was a little girl, I asked for Jesus when my appendix burst." And I started thinking, why all this deception by these UFOs? Why this has been going on since biblical times, this UFO thing. If they're so strong and so powerful, they'd have to be good. And if they're good, why don't they come down and say hi? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. If they're that powerful, why not come down and take care of the problems that we have? Just doesn't make sense. Well, I know from the miracles that happened to me 3 months later that UFOs are the biggest deception the devil has. Because 77% of people on this earth believe in UFOs and life elsewhere. And it's not true. We are being deceived not to think of the real God. That's what UFOs are about. You'll see this someday. You will see that is the truth. I can't prove that to you, but I know that the miracles that happened to me 3 months later, I know this because I was told of it. Okay, now we're getting to the core of it. In the ensuing 3 months leading up to the middle of January of 1978, we had one bathroom. We lived on top of a hill, trees all around us. I had 4 kids using the bathroom, my wife, my mother. So a lot of times, being a country boy, I would go outside to urinate along with my dog. I had my favorite bush, and so did he have his favorite tree. So when I was outside a number of times at night, whether urinating or not, I saw this bright star in the northeast sky doing movements like this. And I would take my friends and some of my family out to view this. I said, "Boy, that's really strange up there, what's happening." Well, in the middle of January 1978, my wife went to be with a girlfriend for a couple nights, and I was sleeping in our downstairs bedroom where our bedroom was. My 4 children, who are now between 46 and 51 years old, they were sleeping in the upstairs bedrooms along with my mother. And all of a sudden, I'm awakened in the middle of the night. Like this, I'm up on my bed, and I'm actually off my bed a foot because I remember taking my hands underneath me and I was rocking back and forth. Then I was gently let down. I went up a few steps, looked at the clock. It was 3:30 a.m. in the morning, hightailed it upstairs, and there was this big, well, actually the size of a golf ball, but it seemed like a big star, right over top of our woods. And just for the lark of it, I said, "Please go left." And it went about 3 miles in a split second. And I said, "What the heck is going on here?" in my mind. I didn't say it out loud. I said it in my mind. Then I said, "Please go right." And it went like 6 miles in a split second and stopped on a dime. Then I told it to come back to center. told it to go left, go right, go up, go down. At the exact spontaneous moment I told this object to do it, it did it. And I was beside myself. In fact, I turned around and knocked my head in the wall, and I came back, and I did it some more. And I still couldn't believe it. So I woke my daughter, my third daughter first, and she came and got under me, and I did it in front of her eyes between 3, 4, or 5 minutes. Then I woke my second daughter, she's my second born, my daughter Marie, who's here today, and I did it in front of her eyes for another 3, 4, or 5 minutes. She's sitting right here. If you would just step up here a minute, Marie. I don't know. I have the thing on that gives the voice. I don't know if you'll be able to hear Marie, but she'll testify to the fact that that actually happened. So if you just say...
Yes, I witnessed that.
Okay, well, yes. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay. Here comes the real good part. Right after her, I was going to awaken my oldest daughter, Cheryl, who's sitting back here, and my son, John, to have them witness it also. But my mother came out of the bedroom and said, let these kids get some sleep. They have school tomorrow. Just let them get some sleep. I said, but Mom, it's out there. She says, I don't care about that. Just let them get to sleep and let them go back to bed. I said, okay, kids, go back to bed. So, and my mother went back to bed. And after they went back to bed, I got down, and here it is, still over top my woods. And then it started approaching me very slowly. And it came down. I mean, it was, it's good I have a strong heart, because it was almost like a freak show to me. I couldn't believe, I thought, my gosh, is it going to kill me? Am I going to be destroyed? Or what the heck is going to happen here? But I didn't run, I didn't freak out. I stayed there, and it came 5 feet from my window, just as big as a golf ball, and it sat there like almost like a soft little angelic thing. And I was talking to it telepathically, telling it what to do, and I am a nothing. And that was the power. And back through me came, now this is probably the atheist of atheists on this earth, probably with my tongue spoke more bad words about Jesus Christ than anyone on earth. I used to call him all kinds of names. I don't believe in miracles. Show me miracles. I'll believe in miracles. And coming through me, through my head telepathically, was that Jehovah God, through Jesus Christ, is the truth, light, and the way, and other biblical stuff was coming through me. I didn't want to believe this was happening. In fact, for years, for 9 years, I still didn't want to admit it. Now, I can't, right at this point, say to you that this happened. But 2 nights later, my friend Ed, him and his girlfriend, sis, had broken up, so Ed was living with me. My wife was still away. It's 20 minutes of 11. My kids are in bed. My mother's in bed, and Ed and I are sitting at the table. Boom, I'm talked to. I looked at Ed and I said, Ed, at exactly 7 minutes after 11, it's going to be over top our house. Ed said to me in a laughing, we joked a lot. He said, you're crazy, May. How do you know it's going to? I said, I know for sure. I'm 100% sure that it's going to be there at exactly 7 minutes after 11. So it was 20 minutes of 11, and we waited till about 30 seconds before 7 minutes after 11, and Ed and I went out into the deep snow. If you'd come up here, Ed. And Ed and I went out to the deep snow, and there it came over top our heads. And I told it, while Ed's watching this, I told it to split in space. And the reason I told it to split in space is because my mother and father divorced, and even though I was 28 years old, it still had a devastating effect on the family, especially on my mother. She got so depressed, she got diabetes, and I knew that even though I hadn't read the Bible yet, that it's one of God hates divorce about more than anything, I knew I also hated it. So that's why I told it to split. Then I told it to do a diamond down over Middletown and up over Steel, and then come back together. Come back this way and then come back together. Go left, go right, go up, go down in front of Ed's eyes. And Ed's here to testify. I did that probably between 4 and 5 minutes till we were both tired of watching it. Not tired of it, we were getting cold. We both went back inside. So Ed,
everything he's telling you is the truth. I did see what he's telling you.
Wow. That was something else. All of that. As I said, I resisted the Lord for about 9 years, till September 3rd, 1987. I remember the date. I finally submitted, got down on my hands and knees, and prayed to God through Jesus Christ. Amen. I started following the Lord then. Little by little, I got stronger and stronger in the Lord. Probably, I'm not saying I'm the best on earth with it. I'm just another follower, that's all. But anyhow, I started following, and we were in a deprivation financially then, and by following the good Lord, it took us from losing our home to buying another $200,000 home, buying 2 new cars and so forth, just by following the Lord and Him doing that. I finally got employed by the best people I ever worked for in 1996. That's when I wrote my book. I sound sort of haughty or egotistical, but it's called The Most Incredible Book Ever Written. It's the story in here that I'm telling you. I wrote my book between 1996, I was working full-time, in 1999, so it took me a while. I had about 80 copies printed, and I handed them out to my friends and family and so forth. Ed has a copy, and all my other friends and family, they have a copy too, so I only have a few copies left. I sent it out to one of the largest literary agencies in the United States, and after about a month they sent a 11-page rejection letter back, filled with lies. And one of the lies was that your story is not unique. Well, come on, please. Did you ever hear anything like this anywhere else in this world? I know it's unique because I was told I was chosen to do this. So I know it's unique. But I later found out that these agencies, they just take your money. Only the ones that are for sure that they can make millions off of. The rest of us, they want $800 just to read your book and then reject you. But anyhow, that's what happened. But along came the internet, and I thought, well, maybe I can get this out to hopefully millions of people throughout the world by using the internet. So that brings us to today. Here I am making this video. And I hope you heard me, because whether you want to agree with this or not, mankind's on the edge of a cliff, about to fall off. Financially, I remember my dad supporting our whole family on one income, sending 2 kids to college, buying 6 acres of land, building a swimming pool, all on one salary. Now 2 people can barely make it just because of the greed that's happened throughout this world. Environmentally, we're breaking down. Whether you want to believe in the Earth's warming or not, whether it's caused by man or not, it's still happening. The polar caps are being depleted, and it's all melting. the threat of terrorism, atomic annihilation, so many other things that we're facing. And if you believe, and since 1963, all I've seen is a sliding board going downhill. And if you think it's going to start going back up, you're being deceived. If you think mankind or any man on this earth can save you from this deprivation that's happening on the face of this earth, you better change your mind and not believe it. You better not put your faith in mankind. I don't care who you vote for, it's still going to go back downhill. Watch, it's been going downhill since 63, and it's going to continue. In fact, it's going to even get worse. Mark my words, it's even going to get worse. So you better put your faith in God. You better do that, because there's nothing out there that's going to save you. No man on this earth is going to make that happen, including me. You better put your faith in God. I'm almost to the end, but people said to me, why did this happen to you? And I can't say for sure, but I know I was about the most anti-Christian persons I ever met. I mean, I was even worse than my father. I used to call Jesus names. I didn't believe that crap, walking on water, raising someone from the dead. I didn't believe it. No man, I don't care who it was on this earth, a priest, a pastor, a minister, black, white, pink, or yellow, was going to convince me that Jesus Christ was the truth, life, and the way. No way. But here I am, worse than, in terms of atheism, more so than any of you out there ever were, believe me. So here's someone that is telling you, from that point of view, that you better change your ways, folks. You better flip-flop your life, and you better start believing, because that's the only thing that's going to save you. Secondly, I know it was because of my heart. I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I wrote these two poems before these miracles happened to me. The one goes like this. It's called Consciousness Levels. Consciousness levels are parallel lines, and like an untuned guitar, the strings just don't rhyme. Now the directions are the same in regards to self, but some feel better, and that's life's true health, thus wealth. An example of these levels and the personalities thereof is when one speaks of hate and then speaks of love. It's like a person who helps the crippled and the blind, but opposes interracial love, an inconsistent mind. So for love to be true, you just got to be totally consistent in order to be free, because then seeing self as others see you becomes a reality in life. You're free to be true. And last but not least, I just want to say this one. It's called Words. I think it was my best one in terms of my heart. It goes like this. Words should draw a picture of what they're speaking of. It's like piecing together a puzzle, when together call it love. But confusion is the epitaph of a world split in two, because words are used in lieu of true. Each side sticks to their own view. The same is true in a marriage. When the two try to relate, each is true to his own point of view, creating a difference in that old heated debate. Children are reared in this confusion on life. They can't depend. Fear is created in that little soul, portraying an image of them. The same is true in any case when a difference does arise, call it an argument, call it a war. Most words do tell of lies, because words are used differently. They're dependent on the person. Each speaks with words in her silent self. Well, heck, I'll stick to my own version. But if words could come upon this earth to tell the truth of us, words would die in the midst of love. Our words would say we must. Because we, the one, means togetherness. Many words would mean the same. Oppression, aggression, recession, and mental depression. Many words would spell one name. And to say to those I wish to expose that words have but one name, giving of self, above all else, is the word and the name of the game. Before I end, I just want to say a few thank yous. I especially want to thank my wife. Excuse me. Let me get my, excuse me. I especially want to thank my wife for being the most loving, gentle partner a man could have. Secondly, I want to thank all my family here for coming, my 4 children, my 9 grandchildren, my mother-in-law, my 3 great-grandchildren, and 1 that's on the way. I'd like to thank my friends, my brother Allison, Bill Unks, Charles Skip Brown, Ronnie Alleman, Bud Gruber, Dave Smith, Deacon Umholtz, and my college friend, the best friend a college a person could have, Mr. George Metzger. He's also in my book. I want to give a special thanks to Art and Murdy Proctor, Jim Schmee, Todd Chavez, and Brian Ziegler, and Ed Holder, sitting here for helping me out mentally, financially, and physically. I also want to give a special thanks to James McDonald and Steve McDonald. James McDonald has started M&Z Carpet 66 years ago. He's the president and CEO. He's 88 years old now. I couldn't find a better employer to work for. They have been great to me and for me. Of course, I was Salesman of the Year about 4 or 5 years in a row, but in any event, thank you, Mr. Mack and Steve. I also want to thank Sylvia Patrick. She read my book. A number of other people read my book and said the same thing that she did. She said it was awesome. She said, "John, don't you ever give up." And I'm here. I'm not about to give up. I also want to thank Doug Kepler, the manager now. He sent me on my birthday card recently. He said, "I learned so much from you. Thank you for your goodness, your hard work, and your integrity." That was just a couple months ago. He wrote that in my birthday card. Also want to thank my past M&Z friends, John Zepihar, Kenny Jadlowick, Jeff Crispino, Faye Gibson, and Sally Hennessy. Last but not least, I want to thank you, Jehovah God, for sending your Son to this earth to redeem me. Thank you. Thank you for these miracles that happened to me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. May the Prince of Peace be with you. Thank you for watching.